Exposed. My lawyer's urgent call revealed an amazing truth about my daughter-in-law's hidden life. Emily leaned against the kitchen counter, the aroma of freshly baked cookies hanging in the air. The phone call from her lawyer broke through the tranquility like a shattered glass. Sarah has been implicated in a scandal, he said urgently, each word like a drumbeat in her ears. The world she had built around family felt alarmingly fragile, and the tight knit of her heart unraveled with each syllable. Sarah, her bright, charitable daughter-in-law, the very same woman who organized community fundraisers and wrapped gifts for the less fortunate, was now marred by whispers of dishonesty. Confusion flooded Emily as she tried to process the news. How could someone so dedicated to altruism fall into such a dark pit? The betrayal sliced through her, forcing her to question the character of a woman she had accepted into her family with open arms. Had she, for years, been duped by a well-crafted facade? Emily's integrity was built on honesty and loyalty. She had instilled these values in her children, rallying her whole life around them. Now the very essence of that commitment hung in the balance. Was this the person she thought she knew? Sarah had been a beacon of light, a role model for her children. Emily's mind raced, replaying memories of cheerful gatherings and laughter. But the urgency in her lawyer's voice made the decorative photos on the fridge feel like a cruel joke. Every smile frozen in the frames felt like a mockery of the trust they once shared. She felt like a ship lost at sea, desperately trying to find a star to guide her. Her heart sank deeper into turmoil as she recalled Sarah's past, the prestigious law firm that once celebrated her success. The pressures of ambition clouded the truth. As a teacher, Emily understood that the stress to excel could lead anyone astray. But from philanthropy to deceit? The leap felt insurmountable. The air thickened around her as visions of Sarah poring over legal documents and mingling in cutthroat meetings rushed into her mind. What dark corners of desperation had she navigated to seem so perfect? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A resolve began to build in her chest. She needed to confront Sarah Schuenty family loyalty, demand an honest discussion about what was really happening, but doubt slithered in, raising fears of losing a relationship that had blossomed over years. What if there was a deeper reason for Sarah's missteps? She couldn't allow herself to rush to judgment without understanding. A conflict of emotions rippled through her. Could she forgive the woman she saw as a daughter? As she set her eyes on the framed family photo hanging above the mantel, something caught her breath. An old acquaintance had mentioned a family secret, one that intertwined their lives in uncanny ways. Emily's stomach knotted. What truth had she unknowingly skirted around? She was left teetering at the edge of a precipice, her heart racing with anticipation and dread. Forgiveness loomed before her like an undiscovered path. But would she have the courage to traverse it? Emily's world began to spiral, and as the phone rested silently on the counter, the storm of uncertainty only promised to grow fiercer. Emily took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. She needed clarity amid the swirling emotions, the uncertainty that threatened to suffocate her. Each passing minute felt like a countdown, a mounting pressure urging her to act. She moved from the kitchen to her living room, where sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. The warmth offered little comfort. Instead, it magnified the chasm between her and Sarah. Unease settled into her bones, and Emily grappled with the looming task of confronting her daughter-in-law. As a teacher, she had ushered numerous students through difficult conversations, teaching them the art of dialogue. Now she had to apply those very lessons to her own life, to navigate the complexities of betrayal and familial bonds. Could she summon the same strength she encouraged in her students? The notion of vulnerability struck a dissonant chord, creating a simmering conflict between her maternal instinct and her principled stance on honesty. Her thoughts spiraled as she rehearsed potential dialogues in her mind. What would she say? "Sarah, we need to talk about something important." It sounded so simple, yet the weight of it felt burdensome. Emily recalled her own mother's teachings about integrity, about facing issues head-on rather than allowing them to fester. This was the moment she had been preparing for, standing up for her values. But with each imagined scene, doubts clawed at her resolve. Was it possible personal feelings could cloud her judgment? Could this all be a misunderstanding? The memory of their last family gathering surfaced, Sarah laughing amidst their friends, the sincerity in her eyes. Had it all been an illusion? The tension tight in her chest caused her to refocus. Ignore the past. Concentrate on the present and what was important: Sarah's truth. There had to be a reason. A story hiding beneath the surface. Perhaps the truth was not as black and white as it seemed. As Emily clutched her phone, reminders of her moral teachings echoed in her mind. Integrity over ignorance. The lesson was clear. She had to approach Sarah with care, poised to listen as much as confront. She didn't want to accuse her daughter-in-law. She wanted to understand. The shock in her lawyer's voice had awakened something deeper in her, a burning curiosity to get to the heart of the matter, to not only recover the bond they once shared but to nurture it into something more genuine. With determination coursing through her veins, Emily began to draft potential questions. What made Sarah stray from her path? Did ambition consume her? Or were there hidden struggles Emily had overlooked? Surely Sarah would appreciate this dialogue, an honest conversation that could bridge the gap created by the phone call that shattered her peace. Would she too be willing to open up? Emily paced the living room, the weight of uncertainty lifted with each step toward action. She could not let this moment slip away into unresolved tension. But the more she reflected on Sarah, the more questions cascaded through her mind. What secrets had she buried deep within her? Would this inquiry reveal something more than just a misunderstanding? The revelation of familial ties, perhaps, which had eluded her for far too long. Finally, she picked up her phone, fingers trembling slightly over the screen, breathing in as she prepared to call Sarah. This was it. The moment had come to face the unknown. The conversation would be uncomfortable, perhaps even painful. But the potential outcome, a deeper connection or a hard truth, was too enticing to ignore. As she dialed, her thoughts raced ahead, a blend of fear and hope rising within her. "Hello?" came Sarah's voice, clear yet laced with uncertainty. The moment was here, the urgency hanging thick in the air. "Sarah, we need to talk." Emily's heart pounded as she braced herself for revelations that could redefine their relationship forever, making her question everything she thought she knew. What truths would emerge from their conversation, and how deeply would they affect her understanding of family and loyalty? The silence stretched painfully between them, a taut wire ready to snap. Emily felt the tension in her shoulders, her heart racing in anticipation. "I'm here," Sarah replied, and the hint of vulnerability in her voice struck a chord within Emily. This was no longer just about confronting a perceived betrayal. It had evolved into something more nuanced and layered. "Sarah," Emily started, her voice steadier than she felt, "I received a call from my lawyer today." She paused, gauging Sarah's reaction, searching for clues in the stillness that hung in the air. The weight of her words felt monumental. "It's about your recent decisions." There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. Emily's pulse quickened. Had she truly prepared herself for this moment? She fought to quell the storm of conflicting emotions swirling within her. This wasn't merely about accusations. It was about unpacking a hidden truth. Decisions. Sarah's response was cautious, a tentative step back onto precarious ground. "What do you mean?" "I think it's best if we discuss everything face to face," Emily said. A calculated choice aimed to add gravity to the conversation. Being in the same room might foster openness. Yet a flicker of doubt pinged in Emily's mind. Would they simply spiral into confusion and hurt feelings? "Okay," Sarah agreed, and there was a sincerity that struck Emily deeply. Yet simultaneously a storm brewed within her, a tangled mess of maternal love, disappointment, and a fierce desire for honesty. This journey into Sarah's life felt like walking a tightrope, but she knew she had to proceed. "Let us meet at the cafe tomorrow morning. It has a quiet corner where we can talk," Emily suggested, her mind racing ahead to the myriad scenarios that could unfold. Would the talk draw them closer, or would it alienate them further? "Tomorrow sounds good, Emily." For the first time there was a softness to Sarah's voice that hinted at fear and uncertainty. "Should I bring anything?" "No. I just want you." Emily's heart ached slightly at her words, knowing she sought not just answers but a chance to reconnect. to heal the fractures between them. The call ended, leaving Emily in a turbulent whirlwind of thoughts. She felt a fleeting sense of impending confrontation yet tempered it with the hope of reconciliation. Decisions had to be made, hers but also Sarah's. What was the journey ahead for them? Emily recognized that this talk was less about uncovering hidden truths about Sarah, and more about her own boundaries. The path to vulnerability was fraught with personal reflection. How had she allowed herself to operate under assumptions, to lock Sarah into a role, an identity that might not capture the woman she had become? She seemed unaware of the impact of her judgment. Emily had never considered that the drive for ambition could lead Sarah down a path shadowed by isolation. Emily moved to her desk, pulling out a blank sheet of paper. She began jotting down her thoughts. Should she focus on her feelings or direct questions? Should she share her fears or emphasize the love she held for her? Decisions blossomed in front of her like a labyrinth, where each turn could lead closer to understanding or further into confusion. The act of simply writing began to clarify her thoughts. With every word, she began to unearth her own hidden truths, her fears of inadequacy, of being blindsided by the unexpected. This was not merely about confronting Sarah. It was about redefining her own understanding of family ties and what they meant to her personally. The tension of her emotions began to feel directed, channeled into a commitment to navigate this complex landscape with grace. But with her growing resolve came an unsettling feeling: what if Sarah wasn't ready to share everything? What if this confrontation revealed fractures in their relationship that couldn't heal? As the shadows lengthened in the late afternoon light, Emily knew that tomorrow would either be a testament to their bond or a stark epiphany about how fragile their connection was. The clock ticked away, counting down to an inevitable encounter that could reshape both of their lives. There was a growing clarity in her mind, but with it, the realization dawned that some truths could be painful, potentially unraveling the fabric of everything she thought was solid. What would tomorrow reveal, and how would it change their perceptions of family, loyalty, and the strength of their bond? The morning sun cast a soft glow through the cafe windows, illuminating the table where Emily sat. Her fingers drummed lightly against her cup, a nervous habit she struggled to suppress. The room buzzed with the hum of conversation and the clattering of dishes, forming an oddly comforting backdrop amidst the anxiety knotting her stomach. She glanced at the door every few moments, each chime of the bell sending her heart into a brief sprint. She had spent the night oscillating between self-doubt and resolve, reflecting on the conversation with Sarah and what it might unleash. A range of emotions enveloped her: excitement, fear, and a fierce determination to not only confront, but also to understand. Was she ready for whatever truths might emerge? As the clock ticked closer to their meeting time, the anticipation morphed into a tangible energy, electrifying her thoughts. Every potential scenario played out in her mind, but the most dominant was the notion that this was not just a reckoning. It was a pivotal moment in their relationship. She was not just a mother seeking answers, but a partner in the unfolding narrative of her daughter-in-law's life, whatever that might entail. When the door swung open, Emily's breath hitched. Sarah stepped inside, her familiar presence instantly flooding the air with a mix of warmth and apprehension. Her eyes darted around the cafe before settling on Emily, a nervous smile flickering across her lips. "Hey," Sarah said softly, gliding over to the table. Emily noticed the subtle tremors in her hands as she folded them in her lap. "Hey," Emily replied, her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. As they settled into their seats, the weight of unspoken words hung heavy. Emily studied Sarah, searching for the courage nestled beneath the surface of her daughter-in-law's guarded demeanor. "Thanks for meeting me," Emily ventured, deliberately choosing a softer tone. "I thought it was best that we talk in person." "Yeah, I think so too." Sarah's voice was barely above a whisper. It seemed like a battlefield was looming just beneath the polite formality of their exchange. Every moment felt suspenseful, as if they were both perched on the edge of a cliff. "The call from my lawyer," Emily began, taking a deep breath to steady her nerves. "It made me realize that we need to be honest. There's more to this than just what I think I know." She hesitated, contemplating how to convey her desire for clarity without judgment. The path forward was intertwined with their emotional investments, and she feared every attempt to navigate it could deepen the divide. "I wanted to talk to you about some things that I've noticed," Sarah interjected, her intensity growing, and Emily felt her stomach flip. The words hung between them like a weight. Your law firm, I didn't realize how much it affected you. I've been so caught up in my own decisions, I lost sight of how it impacted the people I love. Emily sensed the trembling vulnerability in Sarah's admission. It sparked a flicker of hope that this exchange could lead to something transformative, shaping a new understanding of each other. I was concerned about you, Sarah. I thought you were making choices, career choices that could put a rift between us. That's what prompted my call. I didn't mean to create that divide. Sarah's voice trembled. I felt like I needed to chase this path, but no part of me wanted to lose you. The honesty in her words drew Emily in, making her reconsider her own preconceived notions. They were navigating uncharted waters, bracing against the currents of misunderstanding. Every word exchange seemed to peel back layers, revealing the intricate web of loyalty, ambition, and love that bound them together, and yet threatened to unravel. But as the conversation deepened, so did the shadows of their respective fears. Emily could sense that there were layers Sarah had yet to unravel, truths that loomed close but felt unapproachable. She questioned whether Sarah was prepared to confront all that lay beneath the surface. As silence fell, Emily grasped for a way to continue, knowing that every question now came laden with the potential to shake the very foundation of their relationship. The desire for authenticity clashed with the fear of what vulnerabilities might emerge. Sarah, is there anything you need to tell me? Emily's voice cut through the air with an earnestness that surprised even herself. She had crossed a threshold, pushing past her own apprehension to initiate a dialogue that could either heal or sever their bond. The gravity of the moment weighed heavily, and as Emily's heart raced, she braced for the answer. What secrets would emerge from the depths of Sarah's guarded soul? And would they ever be able to navigate through the turmoil effectively? Unbeknownst to her, this was just the beginning of revelations that would force both women to confront not only their past but the futures they envisioned, reshaping everything they thought they knew about love and loyalty. The silence felt like an unspoken challenge, an emotional gauntlet thrown at Emily's feet. Sarah's gaze fell into her lap, and the once vibrant cafe now seemed a labyrinth, muffling the sounds of life around them. Emily's heart raced as she fought the urge to silence the jittery thoughts spiraling in her mind. There was a weight behind Sarah's stare that suggested a reservoir of truths that, once spilled, could irrevocably change their relationship. Emily, Sarah finally murmured, the quiver in her voice betraying layers of tension. There's something I've been grappling with, something I should have shared long ago. I was afraid of what you would think, how you would react. A surge of empathy washed over Emily, intertwined with anxiety. This moment was crucial, one she had yearned for yet dreaded. She hesitated to push further, fearing she'd unravel the very fabric of what they were beginning to stitch back together. The firm, Sarah continued, drawing a steadying breath. It's not just about ambition for me. There are implications that go beyond me. I've felt a pull, a responsibility to make a name for myself, yes, but also to prove that I'm more than just your daughter-in-law. Emily's mind raced with the implications of those words. This was about identity, not just ambition. The realization hit her. Sarah had been carrying not just her own burdens, but the shadows of expectations that came with being part of their family. Emily felt a swell of recognition merging with guilt. Had she inadvertently contributed to this pressure? Why didn't you tell me? Emily managed to ask, her voice steadier than her heart. She needed to hear Sarah's honesty, to unravel the complex knots binding their lives. Why hold it all in? I didn't want to hurt you, Sarah replied, her eyes glistening, swirling with vulnerability. But I realize now that not sharing only hurt us both. I tried to navigate it alone, and in doing so, I built this wall between us. The admission struck Emily profoundly. She recognized that this was not just Sarah's battle. It was theirs to share. It echoed her own fears of judgment, of inadequacy. The realization illuminated a shared path, urging her to navigate the depths of their relationship with newfound clarity. I want to understand, Sarah. I want us to share those burdens. I want you to know you can count on me. Sarah looked up, caught off guard by the earnest depth of Emily's words. The flicker of hope ignited between them, intertwining their ambitions and fears. Yet beneath that hope lay the undercurrent of unspoken truths, yet to be revealed. What else was there that Sarah felt constrained by? I've also been dealing with my family, Sarah started again, as apprehension softened her features. There are conflicts that I haven't resolved. Stories left untold about why I am so driven. It's like a shadow chasing me, and I feel I need to face it head-on to truly move forward. Emily's breath caught. This wasn't merely about the firm or career choices. It was about confronting the past and the ghosts that haunted it. She understood in that moment that this conversation was morphing into something larger than either of them anticipated. Then let's face it together, Emily said fiercely, a newfound determination flooding her veins. Maybe it was not just about Sarah's revelations but Emily's own journey towards growth. The way forward involved both reconciliation with their pasts and the forging of a new path they could both champion. As the cafe tinged with sounds around them, Emily felt her internal compass shift. The potential for resolution grew, but so did the anxiety of what that resolution might demand. Sarah nodded, the flicker of fear still present but subdued. Okay, she replied, her voice steadier. But there's more I need to say. It's about my vision for the future, and something you may not expect. Emily's pulse quickened at the promise of opening deeper wounds, poised to expose the truths hidden from view. She leaned in, steeling herself. What startling revelation awaited her? The next chapter loomed large, echoing her own uncertainty as she prepared to confront the depths of Sarah's hidden life. Each moment stretched taut with anticipation and dread, urging her toward the unknown. Would this new awareness solidify their bond? Or would it fracture everything? Emily was fully drawn in, her heart beating a wild rhythm that matched the weight of Sarah's unsaid thoughts. She realized that the veil surrounding them was about to be lifted, revealing not just Sarah's truths, but perhaps Emily's own as well. The air was thick with the need for vulnerability. Sarah hesitated, searching for the right words. I want to share my vision, but it's intertwined with my past. It's complicated. Emily nodded, her determination solidifying. She was ready. Growing up, my family was we struggled. Struggled to fit into a mold that was never ours. My parents pushed me to excel academically, and I did, but it was never enough. To them, success was the only defining feature. Somewhere along the way, I adopted that mindset. I thought if I could prove them wrong, I would finally be validated, Sarah confessed, her voice quavering slightly. Emily felt a pang of recognition. She had spent years trying to please her own family, to meet expectations that often felt burdensome. This shared sense of pressure was something she had experienced profoundly, albeit in different forms. I lost sight of what I truly wanted, Sarah continued, her eyes brimming with emotion. When I joined the firm, I thought it would be my escape, my opportunity to become someone outside of my family's expectations. But the further I've climbed, the more trapped I feel in their ideals. So have you been chasing a dream that isn't to yours? Emily asked, a new understanding dawning. This was a pivotal moment, one that transcended their present struggles and ventured into the territory of personal identity. Sarah looked up, her expression one of relief mixed with trepidation. Yes, and now I'm at a crossroads. There's a job offer on the table, one that would take me down a path I know I could excel in, but it's not what my parents envision. I feel like I'm on the brink of truly becoming myself, but it terrifies me. As Sarah spoke, Emily's thoughts spiraled deeper. The importance of authenticity buzzed in her mind. She recalled times in her career where she had compromised her values to meet expectations of others. She felt a kinship with Sarah in this internal struggle. Have you decided? Emily asked softly, weighing her words carefully. Not yet, Sarah admitted, sadness lingering in her tone. I know I need to make this choice for myself, but the fear of their disappointment paralyzes me. Emily swallowed hard, contemplating her own fears. Wasn't she lingering in the shadows of her own decisions? The urge to sound competent over the fear of failing loomed large in her mind. Had she, too, been masquerading behind a facade built on the expectations of others? If you have to choose between being true to yourself and their expectations, which will you commit to? Emily pressed gently, taking a deep breath. This was the crux, the moment that could propel them both forward or shatter their tentative bond. I've spent so long wanting to prove something. I just don't know. Sarah's voice trailed off, a flicker of uncertainty passing through her brow. Emily's heart sank slightly for her own unresolved ambitions too. Would she follow the path laid out by others or venture off into the unknown herself? All while supporting Sarah in this precarious moment? The reminders of their familial ties loomed, insisting on defining their paths. Maybe this is the opportunity we need, Emily said, a sudden conviction forming within her. We both face the weight of identity, of family expectations. Let us use this moment not to push against what's been set for us, but to define our own future. Sarah's eyes brightened slightly, as if she could see a glimpse of light breaking through the weight they both bore. Your belief means everything, Sarah whispered, a smile cracking her somber demeanor. But can we really face our families together? Can we truly claim the lives we want in their presence? The truth is a powerful weapon, Sarah. It can cut through layers of expectation. I want to stand with you. Emily felt the swell of courage pushing her forward, the urge to confront not just their families, but possibly her own career choices. The threshold to their futures opened before them. A mighty tension strained in the air, a mixture of anticipation and fear. Just as hope flickered between them, Emily remembered something. What about the job offer? Will you let me help you prepare for the conversation? Look at the options honestly? Sarah nodded, though uncertainty still flickered in her eyes. I just hope they'll understand, she murmured. Understanding often starts with honesty, Emily replied. But as the words left her lips, a nagging doubt pricked Emily's mind. What if their honesty wasn't met with acceptance? The stakes were exorbitant, and the possibilities for confrontation loomed. The moment felt electric, the air thrumming with the energies of vulnerability and impending change. They were stepping into their own futures, yet jeopardizing the comfort of what they had always known. As the weight of their conversation lingered in the air, Emily felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her. They would not just be confronting their families, perhaps they would be confronted by their most potent fears of judgment and failure. What awaited on the other side of revelation? Would they emerge stronger from these shadows, or would they falter under the very weight that defined them? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm glow over the city streets, Emily felt a new intensity within her. The weight of their conversation lingered as she left the coffee shop, her mind racing with admiration for Sarah's willingness to face her truths. Yet, she couldn't shake the reflection of her own unresolved ambitions looming on the horizon. A sense of urgency paved the path ahead. Walking briskly, Emily replayed their dialogue in her mind. The echo of Sarah's heartache fused with her own anxieties, and their intertwined journeys felt poised at the brink of transformation. Potentially liberating, potentially devastating, the outcome of their choices loomed over them like heavy storm clouds. As she approached her office building, a sudden realization jolted through her. A decision waited at her doorstep. Before diving into navigating Sarah's impending conversation with her parents, Emily needed to confront the reality of her own career. Each day spent in the law firm felt like a slow suffocation, wilting under the burden of eluding her own intrinsic aspirations. She had poured herself into her work, yet the satisfaction she had anticipated felt more elusive than ever. In the empty elevator, she practiced articulating her thoughts. Could she apply the same strategy she had proposed to Sarah? A raw honesty with herself would pave the way for change. The opportunity to redefine her identity within the firm beckoned, yet it remained intertwined with a fear of judgment. What would her colleagues think should she shift her focus entirely? Emily's mind fluttered to deadlines and unfeeling clients, all judging her worth on her productivity alone. What am I doing? She whispered under her breath as she reached her office on the 5th floor. The sterile decor felt suffocating today. She wanted color, vibrancy, the opportunity to work on cases that sparked her passion, rather than extinguishing it. But would chasing after this dream mean rocking the boat at the firm? Grabbing a notepad from her desk, Emily began to jot down everything she could remember about her early hopes, a list that began as a simple reminder of who she once wanted to be and quickly expanded into a vivid snapshot of untested potential. Perhaps a shift towards nonprofit law, where she could use her skills to empower those whose voices had been diminished. The thought awoke something electric within her, yet dread crept back in like smoke. The fear of stepping away from her current reality clawed at Emily's chest. Was this betrayal of the life she built, or merely the first step towards asserting her identity? The challenge echoed Sarah's predicament. The fear of disappointing others stood stoutly in the way of their respective dreams. But Emily felt something else, an ember of determination sparked yearning for fulfillment. She reflected on the conversations with Sarah, their shared struggles beckoning the courage to break free from familial expectations. This was not just about standing beside Sarah. It was about standing for herself. As she rifled through her notes, an email notification drew her attention. It was from Sarah. Subject line: I think I know what to say. A mixture of anticipation and dread unfurled within Emily. They had agreed to support one another, yet also lead their own separate paths. What if Sarah's clarity illuminated an unexpected path for Emily too? Her fingers hovered above the keyboard, and as she typed her response, she felt her resolve harden. I'm proud of you for taking this step. I want to hear everything. The letters struck the screen with escalating fervor, reflecting the burgeoning courage rising within her. But doubts clung stubbornly to the edges of her newfound conviction. What if this attempt to embrace authenticity only opened a gulf between who she had been and who she wanted to become? Would she, like Sarah, be met with disappointment? After hitting send, she stood at her desk, contemplating their next few days' sessions. Would it be dialogue filled with hesitation, or would it be the unfolding of truth? The moment felt profound as she settled back, grappling with what awaited her. The journey of authenticity wasn't merely about Sarah. It mirrored the complexities of her own choices. Emily's heart quickened as she thought of her father's legacy. Expectations that felt suffocating. Stepping away from those was one thing. Stepping toward a new identity was another entirely. Each moment carved a path toward revelation, an unfolding of hidden desires. The time had come for Emily to face her choices, and she could feel the premonition of clarity sharpening on the horizon as the office around her dulled into the evening. Emily exacted a deep breath, resolute to embrace whatever truth awaited her. The question pulsed. When she'd meet her family again, who would she present? Would the conversation reveal her past, or birth a victorious new chapter? And would she find the courage to transform not only her life but her career within the law firm? The future whispered of confrontations, anticipation teetering on the brink of change. The next day dawned cool and crisp, a sharp contrast to the swirling turmoil within Emily. The anticipation of her conversation with Sarah fueled her determination, yet casting shadows over her reflections was the impending family gathering. The tug-of-war within her, a long-standing clamor for approval against an insatiable desire for authenticity, demanded attention. As she arrived at her desk, Emily took in the familiar surroundings with new eyes. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, reflecting a sterile reality she wished to escape. She sat, opening her notebook, the pages filled with her ambitions and repressed dreams. Would writing them down again sharpen her focus, or further cement the chasm between her dreams and reality? The mere act felt like a dare. Her phone buzzed, rousing her from introspective reverie. It was Sarah. A short text. Can we talk before dinner? The urgency pulled at her. Sarah's newfound clarity might galvanize Emily's own latent courage. She texted back affirmatively, a rush of adrenaline washing over her. Emily attended meetings that day with a veneer of poise, but inside, her mind was elsewhere. What change awaited her? Each interaction was laced with an awareness of the divergence from the life she had built. Colleagues dismissed her musings, focusing on cases that felt hollow while she envisioned working for a cause that mattered. This stark contrast heightened her discomfort, a reminder that she had defaulted into complacency. Lunchtime allowed a brief moment of escape. She stood in line at the cafe, mind swirling with unanswered questions about Sarah's transformative journey and her own mounting anxiety. Should she confide in her colleagues about her aspirations? Would vulnerability expose her to ridicule? The internal clash reflected a longing for connection weighed against fear of the unknown. Emily, did you see the latest brief? A colleague asked, jolting her back to the present. She smiled and nodded, aware that yielding to their world further entrenched her. I'll get it done, she replied before hastily wrapping up the conversation. As she sat at her usual table in the dim cafe, she felt burdened by a growing realization. She was not merely seeking to change everything at the law firm. She craved a thorough reinvention of herself. With the afternoon dragging on, anticipation gnawed as she prepared to meet Sarah. Would they find shared strength in their vulnerabilities? Would this be the moment they both needed for clarity? Later, at a nearby park, they settled on a bench. As Sarah spoke, Emily felt transported by the raw honesty in her friend's voice. The layers of doubt and fear peeled back to reveal a woman ready to face her family head-on, emboldened by her decision to confront her past. Sarah's transformation led Emily to question the extent of her own resolve. How did you find the courage to confront your fears? Emily asked, genuinely intrigued. It came down to realizing I was done living in shadows. I couldn't continue being the version of myself that others expected, Sarah replied. The conviction in her tone resonated, prompting Emily to reconsider her own fears of judgment. We can be supportive of each other and still chase our dreams, Sarah continued. The echo of those words seemed to stir something deep within Emily, igniting a flicker of hope countering her pervasive self-doubt. They ventured through their plans, charting possible scenarios for each encounter, challenging one another with questions that exposed long-buried truths. For Emily, the notion of dissatisfaction morphed into a clarion call for evolution. Could she resonate with her own ambitions enough to risk losing acceptance? Time slipped away, and Emily was surprised when they realized their conversation had consumed hours. As they parted, Emily felt invigorated yet faced with the weight of the evenings ahead. The dual stakes now loomed larger than life: to be transparent with her family, or to retreat back into silence as she approached her car. The familiar knot of anxiety twisted tighter in her stomach. She'd never been one to disrupt family dynamics, always yearning to maintain peace over authenticity. Tonight, she would need to call upon newfound courage. Steeling herself for the looming confrontation, a thought echoed uncontrollably. If she allowed their responses to define her, what hope did she have of rectifying this split between her latent desires and lived reality? Driven by a sense of urgency, she whispered to herself, "No more holding back." Tomorrow would be a catalyst, a decisive moment steering her toward either reinvention or resignation. As she drove home, uncertainty lingered uncomfortably, intertwined with a thrilling promise of possibility. Would she rise to the occasion, confront her family, and embrace her evolving identity? Or would she slip into the comfort of old patterns in fear of rejection? The thought hashed itself into a single relentless question, demanding immediate attention. What if the true shift she craved wasn't about just changing her career, but fully embracing who she was? With that feeling buzzing in the back of her mind, Emily realized changes were imminent, both professional and personal. The stakes had never been higher, and the moment of truth was unmistakably approaching. The following morning arrived with a layered sky, clouds and sunlight dancing in an uncertain rhythm that mirrored Emily's tumultuous thoughts. She sat at her breakfast table, the usual toast now tasteless against the weight of her impending family gathering. Each bite felt like a countdown to a confrontation she knew was necessary yet dreaded. As she dressed, she caught her reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back seemed both familiar and foreign, a lawyer clad in professional attire, but beneath the surface, a quiet rebellion simmered. The struggle to reconcile her identity began to crystallize. She realized her professional role and personal desires had been in constant conflict. Would embracing her true self shatter the glass cage of expectation she had built around her? Arriving at her family's home, the sight of familiar faces ignited a host of memories. Laughter rang through the air, echoing the warmth of family gatherings past. Yet beneath that warmth lay tension, simmering uncertainty about how her revelations would be received. As her family welcomed her with open arms, the external comfort contrasted starkly with the internal storm brewing within. "Emily, it's so good to see you," her mother exclaimed, pulling her into a tight embrace. Emily remembered her mother's pride, her unwavering belief in traditional success. This made her resolve to challenge those expectations all the more daunting. "Hi, Mom. Good to see you too," Emily replied, masking the anxiety tightening its grip around her chest. Each word now felt heavy, laden with ramifications that could upend everything. As dinner progressed, the usual updates and polite inquiries swirled around her. Family members discussed promotions, school achievements, and the latest neighborhood gossip, all while Emily felt increasingly detached from the conversation. They chattered as if life flowed smoothly, unaware of her internal struggle. Then her brother, always one to stir the pot, posed an innocent yet probing question. "So how's work going, Em?" The question reverberated in her mind. It was no longer about what she was doing but who she really was. "It's going fine," she replied, a rehearsed smile looking back at him. But inside, the urge to divulge her truth grew unbearable. The meal concluded with dessert, a continuation of cheerful banter wrapped in the comfort of family ties, but Emily felt restless. With a deep breath, she pushed her chair back, the sound disrupting the rhythm of laughter. "Can I say something?" Her family turned, surprise flickering across their faces. The harmony shifted as her heart raced. "I need to share how I've been feeling," she began, words tumbling out like marbles rolling down a steep hill. The fear of judgment loomed heavy, yet the necessity of honesty propelled her onward, one unsteady step after another. "I've been thinking about what it means to truly pursue happiness for me, not anyone else. Lately, I've realized I'm not just a lawyer. I want to do something that resonates with my core values." The room fell silent, eyes locking onto her with a mix of curiosity and confusion. The implications of her revelations drifted like fog over a peaceful lake, obscuring the clarity of her family's expectations. Her father's brow furrowed, but his response didn't come right away. Instead, her brother interjected, "Is this about changing jobs again?" "It's not just that," Emily countered, the urgency of her emotions sparking clarity. "It's about being more than just Emily the lawyer. I need to pursue work that's meaningful to me." A fleeting vulnerability had cracked her facade. Yet as she opened herself up to potential ridicule, the grip of fear transformed into something empowering. The urge to shrink back loomed, but a newfound determination countered it. She needed to voice her truth fully. The atmosphere had shifted, her family's expressions now a mix of concern and unexpected intrigue. Would they understand? Would they reject her dreams? Suddenly, her mother leaned forward, intrigue softening her expression. "What do you mean by meaningful?" Emily hadn't anticipated this inquiry. It opened a door she thought was firmly shut. "I want to help those who can't help themselves," she said, her voice stronger than before. "I want to work in social justice, something that feels fulfilling on a personal level." The gravity of her aspirations hung heavy in the air, and she braced herself for the responses that would follow. What would they say? Would their approval shatter or fortify her resolve? As the weight of her vulnerability settled around her, she realized she stood on the precipice of change both within her family dynamic and within herself. With an electric tension in the room, Emily felt her next challenge looming. What would she do if the responses she received did not align with her hopes? Just as her mother opened her mouth to speak, Emily's heart raced once more, fear and anticipation coiling together like a storm on the horizon. The real test had begun. She would either build her own path or retreat into the shadows she was desperately seeking to escape. The quiet stirrings of unease that had enveloped Emily began to dissipate as she delivered her heartfelt declaration. She stood at the figurative crossroads of her family's recognition and self-discovery. The momentous shift she had sought in her life was finally upon her. In the aftermath of her revelation, she watched as her family's expressions evolved from surprise to contemplation. It was as if they were collectively grappling with the weight of her words. Emily's heart raced at the possibilities of acceptance or resistance. The stakes had never felt higher. Meaningful work? Her mother finally responded, her voice steady though the edges of concern lingered. "What would that look like for you, Emily?" It was an invitation to elaborate, to explore the depths of her ambition. "I want to help the underprivileged, advocating for those who can't speak for themselves, focusing on social justice, human rights. Using my skills to engender real change," Emily articulated with newfound conviction, feeling the energy in the room shift. The silence that followed her declaration was thick, pregnant with possibilities and unspoken doubts. Emily prepared herself for the internal resistance from her family. Would they view her dream as an impractical leap away from a secured future? Her father shifted in his seat, brow furrowed as he processed her words. "You know," he said slowly, "helping others is admirable, but you've invested so much in your career. What about your stability?" His intention was protective, not dismissive, but the weight of expectations hung heavily in the air. "I've realized that chasing stability while sacrificing my happiness isn't a choice I'm willing to make anymore, Dad," Emily asserted, her voice unwavering. "Life is too short to chase titles and status at the cost of fulfillment. I need my career to be a reflection of who I am and what calls to me." The room shifted with her assertion. It was a ripple of truth, rumbling into acceptance. She looked around, gauging the impact her words were having on each family member. Her mother turned to her father, sparking murmurs between them. "Maybe we should consider her feelings more," her mother finally suggested, her tone layered with a warmth that wasn't present before. "You've always encouraged us to follow our passions, haven't you?" Slowly, the tension fused into a new light, flickers of pride kindling on faces that had previously been bound by hesitance. Emily felt her heart swell. This was no longer about justification. It was about validation of her identity. Emily, her brother, chimed in next. This is huge. If you're ready to commit to a new direction, we'll support you. A wave of relief coursed through Emily. The fright of losing approval was eclipsed by the growing comfort of familial bonds reshaping. Every word spoken now felt like another piece of armor against her fears. Dinner unfolded with animated discussions about the logistics of her potential transition, the pros and cons, connections in the field, and even plans to explore nonprofit organizations. The familial warmth washed over her, each word serving as a tether, solidifying her burgeoning identity. Despite the ever-evolving conversation, a small voice inside Emily whispered the importance of carrying the momentum forward. She longed to assure Sarah that her bravery wouldn't go unheard, and that her own journey had catalyzed transformations that tangled in harmony with others. Sarah, she is pivotal in this too, Emily mentioned as the topic drifted. She has her path to forge, and is ready to confront her struggles. I owe her thanks for showing me that honesty can break down walls. Her family perked up at the mention of Sarah, eager to continue the conversation about Emily's engagements with her daughter-in-law's hidden life, which echoed the transformations unfolding within herself. They engaged readily, pondering how Emily and Sarah might navigate their respective changes together, seeking out allies within their intertwined journeys. As the night wore on, laughter and hope filled the room. Emily sat back, awash in gratitude for the dialogue sparked and for the courage that had rooted within her. No longer bound by the fear of disappointing those she loved, she had begun carving a legacy of authenticity, not just for herself but for those around her. The gratifying realization struck with clarity. Confronting uncomfortable conversations had become a catalyst for liberation. Emily had ventured into the unknown and emerged with a vibrant illumination of self-discovery and family connection, in the days to follow. As she prepared to tackle her intentions of shifting her career, she felt a solid confidence spring forth within her. No longer held back by fears of judgment or adherence to expectations, Emily had achieved a perspective anchored in authenticity. She possessed a plan, a network of support, and the invaluable realization of her self-worth. This was not mere chance. This was the result of fierce determination to rise above assumed identities. In the cadence of hope and revelation, Emily stood empowered at the precipice of her new life, ready to embark on a journey that would not just reveal the truths of her dreams, but would lead her to foster deeper relationships filled with honesty and genuine understanding. Emily's achievements shined brighter as she embraced her calling in the days ahead. Together with Sarah, she would confront the complexities of their familial ties while embracing their newfound identities. As she lay in bed that night, the stars twinkling through her window, the promise of tomorrow loomed large. The moment of action to manifest her dreams was on the horizon. Their journeys intertwined, fueling the fire of transformation, painting a future touched by resilience, optimism, and profound connection. Emily had conquered trepidation, evolving into a woman aligned with her purpose. She knew she would always carry the weight of her family with her, but now she walked boldly beside them side by side, heart to heart on a road paved with integrity and love. The winds of change blew favorably, and Emily whispered a small prayer for continued courage. It was time to fly. Now, if you resonated with Emily's transformational journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel, so you won't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow together. Comment your reactions and theories about Emily and Sarah's journeys. Join the conversation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. So don't wait even one more second.